Hello Beanies! Just a quick note before the start of the episode. We had a lot to cover and talk about after Accountex, and we waffled on for a bit, so rather than give you a super long episode, we've made it into a special two-parter, so make sure you keep an eye out for part 2. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back. We've made it. This is the second episode. We didn't get cancelled, as we were previously talking about off air. We're here, we're back.
And how many people listened to the first?
Well, I think we were close to around 50 in the first sort of 2 weeks.
We did quite good.
So, you know, not massive numbers, but that's good for the first episode.
For a first episode, it's not bad. So thank you. Keep it coming.
That's for you guys, right there. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Right, I mean, let's just go straight into it. I mean, we've just come from 2 days of hell. No, it wasn't hell. It was. I'd say it was. Hell. Yeah, it was. You know, strenuous. To be fair, the whole walking around for. We're talking about Accountex, by the way. I didn't actually say that, but Accountex 2023. Yeah, let's get straight into it. How did we all find it?
I mean, it was our first time at a big kind of business show convention like that, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was.
But it's not your first time.
Not my first rodeo, as they say.
So let's get your take on it first. How did you find it comparing to the previous?
It was exactly as I expected.
Okay.
It was very traditional format. If anything, actually, I would compliment it because it was very traditional in its format, very well organised. Actually, a good venue. To be honest, the XL is a good venue. I've been there a few times.
Yeah.
Travelling's a bit of a
pain. Travelling there's a bit difficult.
But anyway,
especially when you get off at the wrong station.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come to that later.
No, we'll keep it moving on that one.
Okay. And from that, you can guess whose mistake that was.
It wasn't mine.
Anyway, yeah, it was the traditional format, really well laid out. I think the stuff that we got this time that I didn't get back in the days was an app.
Yeah.
You didn't get the advance notifications, what was happening, when it was happening, stuff by text, updates, what to expect, and the layout. And the app was actually quite good.
The app was actually really useful.
So
we were using it quite a lot, weren't we?
Yeah.
Like searching for the stands.
And
I thought it was more useful for the stands.
When you were on site,
yeah. When you're on site, you search for the... Sage is a terrible example because you know where the Sage stand was.
Yeah.
Christ. But like you'd search for it and then you could find the location on the actual map and it would show you. It's like, it's actually just across from the Sage stand. You could just go straight there. So I thought that was really
the
useful.
other thing I think is really good about this event, and I don't know if others are as good, but the facilities are really good. I've been to events where you've had to maybe go and walk for 40 minutes to find toilets and coffee and lunch, and you're probably never more than 60 seconds from something in the XL.
Yeah, and even inside the convention hall, there were so many places for coffee, weren't there?
Places, juice, ice creams.
They were really
free.
going for it this year with the coffee, weren't they? 100%.
Quite a few coffee booths.
Yeah.
And places to sit down too. Not that we did, but there were plenty of places.
Not a lot of sitting.
I think we only sat down for the talks. Some of those, I was stood up for most of them, I think.
Yeah.
If anything, I think they probably could have had slightly bigger areas reserved for the talks because a lot of them were standing only.
I don't think they anticipated how good and how filled out some of them would be because there were, I think for most of the smaller theatres, they were the right size. But for some of them, the bigger like talks that pulled some people in, you had like a blimmin' circle outside that were just like crowded around, and you couldn't even hear. Like if you're on the edge of that circle, there's so much background noise in the XL that like if you're not within the speaker range, there's no way you're hearing that talk at all.
It's really strange, isn't it? No one was obviously shouting in there, but it's quite surprising how much volume 2,000-3,000 people murmuring makes.
Just like the
sheer volume of people just talking all at once.
That's one thing I did notice when I was looking back at some of the content we shot. Is when the battery died on the camera mid-interview, and I recorded some of it on my phone. You can't hear any of that. Like on my phone, you can't hear any of the interview. And even when you were speaking and interviewing people, and I was like, 2 feet back from you with the camera?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear a single word you two were saying.
Oh, wow.
I was just there like,
Yeah.
they're talking about something interesting, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's weird because if you noticed it, but when you went out to get food or you went to the toilet,
quiet.
your ears suddenly realised the lack of sound that was there. So,
To be fair, some of the booths were quite loud.
Like, it was a rave going on at stage 1, wasn't there?
there were.
I've just realised I'm swearing loads.
That's okay.
It's not, because I've got to edit it
You've got
out.
to beep all this out now.
That's fine. It's your swear box, Phil. It's your swear box. It's your dime. You spend it. So anyway, I thought it was very good. It was one of the better ones I've been to. To be honest with you, probably one of the better ones I've been to. Better organised, better laid out. Like I say, probably more room for the seminars. They probably didn't need as many seminar rooms active at the same time. They probably did a few fewer ones, but have more room. And let's face it, tax and HMRC are probably the least busy, let's say. And then what really surprised me, well, not surprised me, I suppose it's inevitable, probably a little bit disappointing, I suppose, but the fewer or the less populated ones I went to were the sustainability ones. So anything that was around sustainable, environmental, climate, mental fitness, well-being, those were the least attended. And they were the ones I went, and there was loads of seats left.
Which is a real shame, because we'll get to it a bit later, but because we've all got a top 3 that we're going to talk about a bit later on in the podcast, but I know one of mine, and I know one of yours is as well, the mental fitness and health ones, they're right up there with the information that was given, the speakers, how they presented it. They were all very good. Right, so moving on from that, before we get into our top 3 talks and what we got from the whole event, should we recap the manifesto quickly, just for people that, if you didn't listen to the first episode or you've just forgotten, because you might have. Let's just recap quickly the 6 points that we wanted to cover when we were going.
Yeah, was it 5 actually?
Was it 5?
We cut it down to 5.
See, even I've forgotten. So there you go.
Shocking. So, and it's not just, it's a manifesto, not just for Accountex, of course, we said. This is really the manifesto for the community, because there's a community for accountants with accountants. We're obviously going to have accountants and bookkeepers on this podcast in future.
We are.
From the next one onwards, there's going to be more and more people coming into this live. Hopefully, we want live rather than Zoom and things like that. They're no good. So the manifesto was to address, it's easy to address the technical parts, and there's lots of other influencers and experts doing that already. So we don't really want to go into the technical stuff, because that's the day-to-day, and everyone knows those things. And there's lots of resources for that. But we really wanted to focus on accounting practice, so starting, scaling, growing, exiting and selling. We wanted to focus on technology, and that being digital, cloud adoption, accounting, automation and AI. And then we wanted to focus on people and culture. And then the last 2, sustainability and mental fitness. So that's our top 5 points for the manifesto. They're the things that we really want to spend time talking about, and to bookkeepers and accountants about, and getting their feedback on those. And they were the things that we went to Accountex to really dig into. And to be honest with you, as much as I like the other 3, the sustainability and the mental fitness were the 2 that I selfishly wanted to find out more about. And I think I described it well enough on the last podcast, but that's basically because I don't feel we really have, as our own company, a really strong grasp on sustainability. So I went with a mind of, I want to see as many people, exhibitors, I want to go to the talks and find out as much as I possibly could, because I want to feed back. And I spoke to people on the floor, I speak to partners, and I speak to various people around. And I wasn't surprised in so much as they didn't really have much of a Scooby-Doo either. And when I went to the talks, it was very much presentation of facts of, well, this is the scenario, this is the situation, this is the regulation, this is what we have to report. But there was very little in the way of, this is how you actually go about it as an SME. So I've gone, I've read, I've watched, I've listened, I've asked, I've taken pamphlets and leaflets and websites and other great stuff, and we'll talk a bit more about that when I get to my top ones. But for me, very successful. I've not been disappointed on any one of those. I went to a talk that covered every single one of those points on the manifesto, and I honestly cannot say I was disappointed. There were some good, there were some bad, there were one or two very ugly. We'll get to those.
We will
some
get
horror
to those
stories.
because that is a story and a half. Even when me and Aaron were hearing it, like we were like,
absolutely shocked.
Are you sure that happened? that is mental. Like that is actually mental.
We'll get to that.
But we will get to that.
We'll share
we will
that
get
one
to
in a minute. But no, I was delighted. Overall, I was very happy with those 2 days. My feet are still hurting, but I'm delighted.
I'd say it was the same for me. You know, I found it all very interesting. I think I learned quite a bit, especially on the sustainability and the mental health side of things. Again, we'll cover that in a minute when we get to the top 3 because, well, most of the things in my top 3 are to do with those, I think. But yeah, it was good, and we had some good chats on the sustainability front as well. Shout out to the guys from Ecology because they were
fantastic, weren't they?
very knowledgeable about everything, and they've got some good first steps. So I'll definitely have links for those in the description of the YouTube video, and I'll also put some in the podcast description because they had some very good information for anyone that is struggling to find information on these things.
Yeah, okay. For me, I think it was good. I enjoyed it. A little bit overwhelming day one, a lot of people, but some really good talks, some great informations, people that really, you can tell they're passionate, they know their stuff. It's nice to see them up on stage and people really be engaged with that, and yeah, it was good to see a lot of friendly faces in person as well. Shout out to Captain Kelly Dawn. Nice to finally meet her. Yeah, fantastic. Great time. My feet are killing though.
Yeah, I think all of our feet are really... I was struggling after day one, I'm going to be honest with you. When I got in there on day 2 and I started walking around, I noticed my walking pace had significantly dropped.
You're
I was
lightweight.
like, oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, definitely. Absolutely. Don't forget
That was
one.
definitely the feeling.
So for you, you'd been around accountants before in your prior job. So for you, this was not a first induction. This was
it wasn't like a first induction to the industry or to meeting the accounting type of people. No, but obviously it was for Aaron.
Did you find it a slightly different crowd of people than you were expecting, or exactly what you thought?
It was a little bit different.
Good or bad?
Well, in a good way, definitely in a good way. I think quite a lot of the people that went are way more engaged than I thought they would be.
It's amazing what a bit of merch or two.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the merch as well later on.
Yes,
but
we will.
Yeah, I think there were so many people that are engaged and just are going there to learn. And then, yeah, you do get the stereotypical type of... I kind of want to shout out the booth that was like full of stereotypical people, but at the same time I don't.
Oh, you mean His Majesty's Revenue Customs?
I very much do. If you wanted the typical sort of what you would imagine people would be like at these conventions, that was it. Straight up, that booth
They
was...
weren't they? Were surprised, and you thought, no.
I thought they would have sent some people that were a bit more like, up for it, but they were... they did not want to be there.
Amoeba, maybe? Pond? I know. I introduced I was talking to someone at the iWalker stand.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? And I said, well, we do 2 things. I said, we build bots that do accounting and bookkeeping work. She said, oh, that's exciting. And she said, what's the other thing? I said, we provide unsecured interest-free loans to His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. We just, we never want the money back. So take as long as you like. We're just a small business. You've only got several trillion to pay with. You carry on. Which she found at first confusing, and then the penny dropped, and then she realised I was taking the mick. But anyway, what about you? So this was your first introduction to
the world of accountants in general.
But like going on safari, but without a gun, strangely.
Because I suppose the only people that you've interacted with in this space are our partners.
Yeah, our partners. But I think the accountants are a great community. They're very welcoming. I think that's what surprised me the most. They're very open to sit down, have a conversation.
I don't know why I'm so surprised. He's lived with an accountant his entire life.
Well, maybe that's...
Are you not very welcoming?
No, fair point.
Maybe you've tainted the reputation.
Yeah. So you dispelled some myths then. You're not all like, oh, I can't watch this.
No, and that's one thing though. I think people have that myth of accountants being quite stuffy and, not willing to change in themselves. But surprisingly from this, they were very open to change and looking to do new things.
They're generally a very dynamic.
They are. That's the word, dynamic.
People.
Yeah.
Because they have to be. I mean, they have to deal with multiple different sectors, different businesses, all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
They have to deal with people in manufacturing, professional services, you name it, fintech, financial services, all manner of things.
But I think that's maybe partly
and they have
down
to deal with HMRC.
Yeah, I mean, that would make
That's
anyone
a
a little
special
bit.
skill.
We're on the HMRC hate wagon at the moment, apparently.
Is there another wagon? I don't know. But no, you enjoyed it then.
Yeah,
That's good.
They're very good. Yeah.
Great.
They're going through a lot as an industry at the moment, a lot of change. So I think, I think this is a great time to be there and witness what's going on.
Yeah. And not trying not to jump ahead, but on that point, because we all read The Human Firm before we went.
We did.
Yes, right? We all read it. Listened
Will's
to
fantastic.
really good book. I enjoyed the book. We'll do some stuff on that later, but I enjoyed reading the book. Lots of good things and some criticisms to them throw at it at some point in the future. Managed to catch up with Will, but also managed to get a bit more context on different from seeing him and talking to him in the flesh too. But it was interesting, the stat that I really found interesting when he was doing his talk, and he talked about it in the book, but in terms of becoming in a digital firm, what he defines as a digital firm.
The 20% stat,
and he defines the digital firm by, yes, you've got your cloud accounting programs and you've got all that stuff, but you've also got your everything in the cloud. From your client's perspective, you've got your documentation, you've got nothing physical, and you're using pre-accounting tools, so all your decks and your source books that feed into your accounting system, reports that go out the back end. So a fully digital adopted firm. And he reckons his estimates are 20% of the industry, maximum. Conservative. And he reckons that only 20% of them are in full digital.
Yeah.
So about 20% have got like Sage and Xero and other things like that, but they haven't gone the full cloud route and they haven't fully adopted full digital. And only 20%. So his final estimate was around 1,400 firms out of something like 41,000 in the UK that are actually fully digital firms.
Which, when you think about it, is probably an accurate representation of the amount of people that are Accountex.
And are going to be at DAS.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think DAS have around about 5,000 members.
I think it's something like it might be close to 6,000.
6,000 members. So, if you take the average, maybe it's 10 people per firm on average, some a lot more, some less. Yeah, it probably does. It probably plays out. Right, fairly accurate. Anyway, I found that really, really interesting. What it means is if you're in the service industry or the SaaS industry and you're trying to sell into bookkeepers and accountants, it means you've still got 90% of the sector has still not adopted, which means we're still in the early adopter phase, which means we're right still at the bottom of the curve, the bell curve, and you've got that.
Which is actually crazy.
It is crazy.
When you actually think about it, only 20% use... Well, only 20% of the whole industry use accounting tools, like the cloud-based accounting tools, which is crazy because if before that book I would have said it would have been close to like 80%. I would have assumed that most places would have.
When you think about how long these tools have actually been available as well, you kind of think, wow.
You say that, but they've been available, but it's real. I would say in the last 3 to 5 years is when they've really upped their game to the level where, anyone can adopt them now. But I think they weren't there outside of 3 to 5 years.
That's probably true.
To the same extent.
Even if he's just thinking about their marketing, it's really stepped up in the past couple of.
But the ecosystem, because that's the main thing too. You're going to have an ecosystem that has the apps and connected apps and integrations, and that's helpful too. But anyway, we digressed a little bit. But
slightly off topic. Right, let's just we keep going in and around the subject. So let's just go to what we actually did while we were there, our takeaways and our top 3. Not just necessarily talks, but our top 3. I'll say interactions because I know you've got one of yours isn't actually a talk that you're going to say. So we'll go for top 3 interactions while we were there. So who wants to kick it off?
I don't mind going first.
Let's go for it.
Actually, one of my favourite talks is actually one of my first ones was Richard Bruin talking about how to avoid being standardised by technology.
Okay.
I thought it wasn't what I expected it was going to be, but it was brilliant. Some really good information. He started off kind of asking, are you happy as a bookkeeper, an accountant?
Oh,
in what
that's not what I expected either.
No. And he's been in the industry for about, I think he said 40 years. And he's brought his experience and his lessons and said, you need to do really what you're interested in, what makes you happy.
Okay.
You can't just take everyone in from every industry and every bit of software, because you're never going to be able to keep up with the demand, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the main takeaway there was actually have a more of a focus, and the people will kind of come to you in a way, and it will make it your life a little bit easier as well when you have more of a focus. You focus on either one bit of software that you're passionate about, or one particular industry, whether that be construction or music, for example.
Yeah.
And then you're able to kind of specialize a bit more and
Find
provide a
your
bit
niche.
more. Yeah, exactly.
One that you get some pleasure from.
Exactly. Something that you jump out of bed every day and think, you know what, I actually really want to help. Because that's another thing I found with the accountants. They're actually very genuine in their desire to really help people, and finding the right tool and industry where they can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, if you do a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. Exactly. Work every day of my life. No, I'm joking.
So that was top one. What was the others?
Wolf Arnell's again was very good and very
Which
informative.
one? Because he did about 50.
He did quite a few.
Was almost
Was it the one with
the
me
Will-
and you both caught at the end?
Was it the
Or
app,
did you see a different one?
app advisory?
Yeah, there
stuff,
was one
or-
at the app advisory where we sort of caught the end of it.
That was good, but not one of my favourites.
Oh, okay.
One of my other favourites, actually, surprisingly, was why cyber criminals love accountants.
Oh, okay.
And there were some actually really interesting facts in that talk.
Tell me, why? Why do they? Because I don't know.
One thing he said, do you know what the average age of a cyber criminal is now?
No.
At least in the UK.
No.
2 years old.
17.
What?
17?
Yeah.
What are we defining as a cyber criminal, though? Did he say that?
Someone that conducts, kind
Crime
of hacks
online.
or attacks online, or trying to gain someone's data.
17?
Yeah, I know.
Wow, okay.
I thought he was going to say 35, 40, but no, 17. I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And the
Cottage industry.
Yeah.
Cyber fraud.
And the conviction
You can
rate.
do it too.
The conviction rate is below.
Can recruit from uni.
Oh no, God! God, that's actually below university age.
It is. Yeah,
Right.
it is.
Well, why go
You need to
uni
be-
when you can just extort?
Yeah.
Why go uni
Quarter of a
when you
million pounds
can
a
turn
year.
to crime?
Wow.
Because accountants are a very easy, very good target that are now is opening up even more. Because
Why
they
is
have they have access to so much information and data. It's
Because they've digitally transformed
That,
and
Yeah,
adopted
that
it.
well, but
part
that
of-
is
ironic,
part
isn't
of
it?
the risk, isn't it? I suppose.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and everything kind of catches up over time, doesn't it? You move to digital, and then you realise, oh yeah, but now we're going to get the security in place. So these things tend to follow after. I think I said this last time, but we only respond and react to things when there's a trigger event,
Yeah.
a catastrophe, a chaos.
Yeah.
Something happens.
That's what he discussed in it, saying you need to really be ahead of the curve and get your preparations before, because there's no point doing damage control. Because
No.
once they've got your data,
That's it.
that's
But
it.
I think I read or heard somewhere else. I think it was actually. Do you know? I was reading in my Bean Counters book because
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of fraud and stuff about that, mostly related to audit firms. But that's besides the point. But I think it said in there that most companies just pay when they get
Yeah.
extorted. Now it's cheaper to just pay it.
Yeah.
So if they want 5 million for your data, just pay it and done.
It's its
move
own
on.
business now, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just,
it is. It literally is. They're almost taking insurance policies out now, and they just pay the money and done. Move on.
Yeah.
It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's faster. You learn, close it up, move on, close the loop, address the weaknesses you had. So you could almost think of it like a public service now. They're finding your weaknesses in your systems, in your policies, in your governance
Actually,
frameworks.
It's an expensive
something he
public
said,
service.
the weakest link always is the person.
Yeah. Oh, it is
Yeah.
always. Yes. It's always been
Interestingly,
the way.
he's from a cybersecurity government funded in London,
Okay.
Okay.
and they did a test recently
Yeah.
where they have, companies have like a benefit program they can go on to and redeem
Yeah.
whatnot.
Flexible benefit system. Yeah. that's
kind
right.
kind of thing, movie tickets, whatnot.
Yeah.
So they did a test where they sent out a fake website from what looked like a legitimate email to that. 75% of the staff got caught out by it.
That's crazy.
So put in their details, went onto this site, and to think they work in cyber, and even they got caught out by something so
Yeah.
simple.
I'm not
Free
surprised
stuff.
actually.
Yeah, free stuff.
It's free stuff.
The merch
The
monger,
merch.
the merch monger himself.
Merch gremlin.
Yeah.
Merch gremlin over here. Bloody, that was one of my struggles. Carrying around all that merch in those bags.
Dear.
Dear.
Yeah. But moving on to my last one.
Yes, that was really interesting though. I want to get more interest on that.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover more of that on the community.
We'll share some more. Yeah, put some content.
Yeah, we'll go into more depth than all of the talks that we're talking about, either in an article or a video. But that'll be coming out on the community. So stay tuned.
And my last one was upskilling for the future, tackling the skills gap. That was actually a panel with Rachel Harris, Lucy Cohen, and Alistair. I've forgotten his surname now.
The guy from Flinders.
Oh,
Can't
yeah.
miss him.
Is he the young guy? He was on the Gen Z.
No, the different guy.
The founder, I believe.
His boss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably.
But yeah, that was fantastic talk.
I think I went to a similar talk, actually.
Yeah, he did one or two on a kind of topic of... Was yours about company culture?
It was to do with tackling the skills gap.
Okay,
It was very similar.
You both had the same seminar.
No, it was because
separate sides.
Just opposite sides. You wallies.
I think rather than tackling the skills gap, it was like why are you not finding the right talent or something.
Oh,
but it was
because they covered that a little bit.
But I remember because I caught the end of your talk, and the stuff they were talking about was very similar to the stuff they were covering in the one I'd just been to. So.
Okay.
But I found that one quite interesting as well. So.
I mean, as someone new to the workplace, there's a big focus for my generation now about the company culture and where you fit into that, and does that align with who you are as a person and your own values? And one thing they all kind of brought up was, as a new business, you need to really establish the key processes, your key values, your vision from the get-go.
Yeah.
And from there, it's very easy to build out and find people, because then you know what people you need. Because one phrase, I don't know if he said it or someone else in the day, but it's hard to get people to jump on the train if they don't know where it's going.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
That's brilliant, and it links in really well because there was 2 different talks that I went to that touched on both of those points.
Oh, okay.
Are they in your top 3?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
And that's why I'm just going to mention them quickly, because
please.
one was the Gen Z.
That was I caught the end of that as well. That was good.
So it was, I forget the name of the title, but it was like Gen Z, entitled, lazy,
Yeah,
tech savvy, that kind of stuff. And it was basically, debunking the myth. Is it true? Is it not true? And the funny thing was, which I really liked about it, was he said, not entirely untrue. And this is from a Gen Z, but some of it, yes. But anyway, the point I was going to make was, for them, one of the most important things is belonging. Yeah. So, and they belong when they identify with the cause, with the purpose, with the why. And that was the biggest thing for them.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. The second one was the purpose, and the is absolutely linked directly to well-being. Yeah. Because that gives them also a sense of well-being and belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But and I'm what I found also very interesting about the Gen Z, because they talked about a lot of things. They talked about remuneration. What do you expect? What your expectations are. Training. They talked about their because I actually asked the question. Well, this is our impression of Gen Z. What's your impression of Gen X and millennials? And it's quite interesting because they had a lot more respect and admiration, I guess is the right word, for the older generation than they're given credit for. They might not. I think that the thing that came out really clearly was they feel it, but I think our generation, and for you, this is one for you, and for any other Gen Zs listening, is you are quite inward in communicating it though. So we're quite outward. Even the most introspective ones of us generally are quite outward in expressing our opinions. Your generation's less likely to express an opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely a change in that
communication. Switch. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that came out of it is just need to communicate more, and don't put it on emails, and don't do things indirectly, and don't assume, and don't use. It was really funny. There was because the university system came under fire.
Oh God, the lecturer.
Yeah. All right. Oh no, I'm ready to hear this.
Sport me.
Sorry.
Oh.
Got in with the punchline. But there was university lecturers sitting there. No one knew. But they were saying we don't really prefer the university direct route anymore. We want to go into do almost apprenticeships. Seem to be more and more respectable now. So, and at the end of it, they asked questions, and they went to the. I'm a university lecturer, and I just want to. And she was. What's the word, Phil?
her question was quite brutal.
Oh.
It was like, "Hi, I'm a university lecturer, and I just find sometimes that when I'm communicating with the likes of the Gen Z generation, that they're very rude, and they just don't really know how to communicate via email, and disrespectful, and it comes across just almost horrible at times. What do you think about that?"
It was literally
And
two guys up there going, "Whoa!"
Wow.
Yeah, you could feel the temperature change in the room, couldn't you? Straight away.
She just went in. She went for the kill. Like,
Okay.
And in fairness, like the guys took it admirably. They responded, "Okay, that's really interesting," and they took it very positively. They communicated really constructively. I think the one that actually got upset was the moderator, because she was a Gen Z.
yeah, she
actually got
chimed
upset on
in.
their behalf and had a little dig back.
She was like, "I'm actually going to answer this as well."
It was
So
quite fun.
they were actually, I can't remember their names, so sorry guys, but they were very
one
articulate.
Was Flinder, one was from
Yeah,
Flinder.
one of them was from Flint, but they were very articulate. They were very good while they were up there.
Yeah,
They had answers to all the questions.
they did. What I also found interesting was about remuneration. And I said, well, remuneration, that's a big thing. You got fixed, you got variable, you've got commission, bonus, stock options, benefits, all that kind of stuff. I said, well, what is it you look at when you? I asked the question in the public forum. I said, well, what is it you're looking at? And they basically said, well, we're looking at gross, and then anything else on top of that's just great. But they're not thinking like normally we would look at that as the total package. So there's a total amount to play with. X amount is going to be on salary. X is going to be for bonuses. Some is variable. Stock options. The potential that is much bigger. They don't care.
I think that's more of a millennial thing.
You do.
Well, I look at it like that. I look at it as a whole picture.
Yeah, which I guess it correlates with what Will was saying in his book as well, which is no one wants to buy into a partnership now. They'd rather buy a home. So there's definitely a generational shift that my generation is much less aware of, that we need to be.
Because I think I remember talking to you in my interview about
I
stock
didn't speak to
options
you.
and stuff.
I ignored you.
Because I was literally like, oh yeah, no, stock options are quite important for me because it's
Yeah.
looking a lot further into the future.
Yeah.
So I remember that. Well, I don't know if I can't speak for all millennials, but like that was something that I look at when I look at the whole package.
For them, it was more, I want the highest gross I can get. Everything else is
Short term.
just additional, but they're not even going to take it into account really. It's just like, yeah, okay, that goes on top. And then it's everything else that's more intrinsic.
Let's just go straight from that onto your top three then.
Well, no, you do yours next.
You want me to do mine
do
next?
Do yours.
So the top one that I had that I went to was Zoe Thompson, and she was talking. This was a mental health one, and this was about preventing stress, feeling overwhelmed, and burnout. And basically, she went through each of the like stress, overwhelming, burnout, just covered what they were. And basically, burnout is a combination of the other two, like chronic stress, feeling overwhelmed all the time. That leads to you becoming burnt out. And basically, what she just covered was how to spot the signs. And then before spotting the signs, you sort of need to understand a baseline of where people normally are. So you can't work out if someone's stressed or how they're feeling if they're acting differently if you don't know how they act in the first place. So it was all about understanding the baseline, then working out when people are acting differently, and then she had a slide come up with several different points you look out for, if people aren't sleeping, they're not eating correctly, which is sometimes that's going to be very difficult to sort of see in a workplace.
Give me a go.
Give you a go.
I'll watch you. I've put the camera on your bedroom.
That's very creepy, but that's fine.
That's how much I care about my employees. I'll watch you.
Yeah, and she basically was just covered all of that stuff, and she presented it very well. There's a lot of good material on the slides, so that was one of my favourites. And this is a strange one. My second one. I'll say this is my third one. I'll do it in a weird order. My third one, I'm gonna butcher his last name probably. Ian Lane, and he was covering. And I didn't think the topic. I sort of knew quite a lot of the topic, so I wasn't really going on the topic on this one. But this talk was at 5:00 on the first day.
Oh, so by this point you're knackered.
So I was thinking like, I'm not going to be
rest.
here. I'm just here for the rest. The moment he started talking, though, I listened to every single word of that entire presentation. It was great. He was just like, he was bouncing off the walls. He was all over the place. He was so energetic. He was really good. And like, he was talking about basically taking accounting reports and then presenting them to non-accountants. So if you're having like a board meeting and stuff, and how you go about doing that, like, don't fill the whole thing with just numbers and things they're not going to understand. It was using like the rule of 3, making the numbers bold and stuff. Like, it's all stuff that I've covered before, but like, just the way he presented it was great. And I thought that was at 5 o'clock on the first day, that was an incredible effort from him, because he must
really
have been
good speaker,
100%. And I'd say the second one, it's more of an interaction rather than a talk. But the guys at Ecology, again, I'm shouting them out again, but me and you, Aaron, we were there like 40 minutes just having a chat to these guys about sustainability, and they know their stuff.
You can see they're passionate.
They're very passionate about it, and they're also quite funny as well.
Yeah.
They I can't remember. There was the guy that you were speaking to. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But he had the QuickBooks shoes that they had at the merch stand on.
The ones you wanted.
Aaron was trying to get
a little bit
hand
jealous
of those, but
when he came over with those, I thought,
it did look quite funny though.
I need me a pair of those.
If you want to see those, we did capture those in the interview that we did with him, so that will be coming out soon. So stay tuned for that if you want to see what the QuickBooks Converse shoes look like.
Fair enough.
But that would be my top 3.